Happy Monday, ladies.
Happy Monday.
We are here again
Good
another week.
evening. Good evening.
We made it another week. How are you
Yes,
ladies doing this evening?
Excellent. Grateful to be here.
Yes,
doing
how are all
well.
of you in
Doing well.
YouTube land? So, ladies, we are here again tonight for another episode on the Woman to Woman show. For all of you joining us tonight, this is the Woman to Woman show where we have open, honest, and truthful conversations. We like to call it the Gen X conversation, but everyone is welcome. So I'm going to have us start as we normally start, which is by introducing ourselves and saying what we are grateful for. So, who would like to start?
I'll start. My name is Manetta. I am the owner of Holistically Motivated. I am also a certified coach specializing in our uniqueness so that we can highlight the best parts of ourselves and forget working on weaknesses, right? And
Mhm.
I am absolutely grateful for traveling mercies. Had family members travel over the holiday, over the weekend, and they have made it back home safely. So I am grateful for that.
Thank
Awesome.
goodness.
Sheila.
I am Sheila. I am an insurance claims professional, and I also am an independent stylist for Color Street, and I am also a notary public. And with Color Street, we sell nail polish strips. And I am grateful just for another day, keeping it simple. I am grateful that he woke me up this morning and he started me on my way. And I'm grateful that he's done the same thing for my family as well as for my fellow beauty flies.
Uh,
Amen.
Amen. Amen. And my name is Theodora Carter. I am also a certified coach. I am HR professional as well. I help women navigate life to live an intentional and fulfilling life. And I am grateful for, as Sheila said, just being here yet another day, another week. I am grateful for medical insurance.
Amen.
Grateful to be able to go to the doctor for preventative health care.
Mhm.
And so I will say that is what I'm grateful for. And last but not least, Regina, we are introducing ourselves and saying what we're grateful for.
Hello, everybody. I am Regina. I'm known as Chef Regina of Regina's Baking Academy. Right now, I'm really working on my whole title, so I'll just let it be as Chef Regina. We're gonna let it marinate there. Um, but what I'm, what I'm grateful for is that tomorrow, my program, I'm doing the Black History program, um, for my day job, and I'm glad that tomorrow is the final day because I'm trying not to overthink it. So I'm just grateful that tomorrow will be here and then it will be complete and I could pause and catch my breath.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we will also say that Regina is our resident comedian.
Yes.
But I am so happy that we are here tonight, and I am excited about the topic that we are talking about tonight. Which I'm kind of excited because I'm hearing you talk about this Black History program you're putting on. So
Mm.
I'm wondering how much help did you ask for while you were planning this? So our topic tonight is asking for help. Why won't or don't we do it?
Okay. Do you want me to start?
Mhm.
Okay. Well let me start by saying I asked for help.
Okay.
I did.
Okay.
Now because I've learned over time that, and I say it often, that you can have a great idea or a great vision, but that doesn't mean that you are the one that's solely responsible for implementing all of it. That you need a team, you need people around you to help you carry out what it is you're doing. But I will say that I've learned this over time. I still have to get out of my own way sometimes when it comes to things that are personal to me to ask for help. So it's easier for me to ask for help at work because I'm like, look at here, we all on the clock. uh you could come and give me a couple hours, please, and thank you. And y'all going to eat, you're going to like it, you're going to be like, ooh, ah, that was nice, so I need your help, thank you so very much, I appreciate you, thank you. But now that's work related, right? So I can do that. Everybody chip in, you get them encouraged in what you're up to, they get excited with you, and then they buy into your vision. But when it comes to matters of the heart or things that are really deep, when it comes to worrying about or being concerned about the judgment or what people may say or think, those are the areas that I still work on an ongoing basis to actually ask for help, even with people that I love and care about, because they may assume, oh, you got that. You mean you still got that problem, or girl, you know what to do, and I want to be like, sis, bruh, if I knew what to do, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. So this is why I don't talk to you, because you assume I'm supposed to have it together. I should have been over this situation. So it makes me, even though I may seem like I'm an extrovert, I think I'm more of an introvert when it comes to things like that, because it's about judgment. I've tried to learn how to put the ego on the side, because when you really need help, you got to reach out for it, and there's people around you that are willing to help you. But I also have learned to be selective in who I ask for help, because uh, I've been hurt, or I've been burned by putting my confidence in people that I thought was sincere in what they were pouring into me, when unfortunately there were times when they were taking that and just sharing that conversation or sharing the experience that I really wasn't asking for that to be broadcast. So when it comes to matters of the heart, or things relational, I don't ask for as much help um sometimes as I should, or I linger in it a little too long. But I've learned how to do better when it comes to my physical health. My, like, if something is wrong, I go to the doctor. I don't sit on it like, oh, in the past. I'm old enough to know that doesn't work. So it depends on the area. I'll say some things I'm really good at, asking for help and enrolling people in what I'm up to. But things that are still like personal to me, even though I'm doing the work to deal and grow and be better at in that area, I still sometimes get stopped when it comes to asking for help, because I don't know what I'm going to get sometimes when I ask for help, especially when I think it's a person that should be receptive or understand me, and then I get a different response. It's like, well, if you don't get it, and I thought you got it, I definitely not going to go to the next one, that because you was at the top of the list. I thought I thought so. So those are the things that I'm still working on. Not to
So,
be emotional.
so we started with you. Now I see, for a reason, right? Because you hit on a couple of things, right? The difference between asking for help in a professional environment versus a personal environment, right? That matters of the heart, right? That whole area of feeling like you're going to be judged, or people not really understanding you, right? I mean, there were so many nuggets.
Yes.
I heard as you talk that I'm sure we all can identify with, right? Because that hurt thing is real, right? That asking for help and the response you get, or the hurt that comes out of it, that will lead you to not asking for help. So, Sheila, Netta, what are your thoughts?
I love, first of all, to just kind of go back to the beginning it's so much in what Regina shared. We just gotta unpack it a little bit.
Mhm.
I know it was a lot, right? Okay, all right.
No.
No, but it was good.
It was excellent. It was so many things that maybe we hadn't considered.
Yes.
So thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that. I guess for the sake of simplicity, want to talk a little bit from the professional setting,
Mhm.
asking for help in that area. I've had to grow in that space as well. Of course, first starting out in the career, you're asking questions
Mhm.
because you have the seasoned veterans around you, and you see, and in that case, you still have to be discerning who you ask
Mhm.
help of, because everybody is not
Mhm.
trustworthy. And so that's the first step. Who can I trust with this question?
Mhm.
And then just gleaning. That's why I feel like mentoring and having someone as an elder of sorts to go to is very important. And that's the space that we sit in now.
Mhm.
At one point we were gleaning from others. So I feel like we take what we've learned to share it. It's not for us to keep to ourselves. That's one point. The
Mhm.
other thing I would like to say, as in the professional setting, I was not as hesitant to ask for help,
Mhm.
just like Regina said. So from the professional setting, absolutely. If this is a team approach, then we need to go after this goal as a group. I'm okay with my own personal evaluation. I'm going to handle that. But we just got to make sure as a team we're working collaboratively to meet that goal, that common goal that we're trying to reach. So in the professional setting, I'm not as challenged to
Mhm.
ask for help.
It's funny because when I first started out in my career, right, I was that person that wanted to do everything by myself because I had a certain way that I wanted to get it done. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It was a mentor that said to me, everybody's not going to do things the way you want to get it done, but they still will be able to do it. Right. And so that helped me with, being able to ask for help. But as I began to grow in my career, right, and I became more like a leader and an executive, right, it became much easier because at that point I wasn't really asking, I was delegating. Right. For the
Mm-hmm.
most part, I was pulling teams together, right? I was assigning, and part of that delegation is asking people, right? Because you want to make sure people are comfortable. But that's why it was easier for me in the professional setting because one, I had, like you said, a mentor that was like, listen, because for me, asking for help wasn't really about not wanting anybody to help. It was just like I had a way that I felt like things needed to get done, right? So I'm going to do it. Right. And my mentor was like, you don't have to sit here tolling, doing everything by yourself, right? People can help you. They just may do it a different way, right? You got to be able to let go. But like Regina said, on the personal side, and I would say it's an ongoing struggle, right? Because I still to this day waver sometimes with asking for help. Like I'm more prone to do things on my own rather than just pick up the phone or call somebody and ask for help, right? And that's, I'm a work in progress, but I'm sure we all are.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I say that every single day. It is still an ongoing struggle for me to ask for help. It's also, and even though I have been in management for the better part of my career, I still toe that fine line between delegating and doing it myself because I like to take things from the educational standpoint, right? I'm a trainer at heart. So my thought is that if I'm training you to do something, I should also be able to let it go and
Mm-hmm.
let you do it. So it's not even as a matter of trust, but I guess I also do things like kind of like in a backward way, because if you ask me for something, I'll show you how to do it. And my expectation is that you now will see how it's supposed to be done and you will follow suit the next time around. Sometimes I'm met with disappointment and I myself can't understand it. Knowing that there has to be follow through and follow up.
Mhm.
And it gets back to what Regina was saying, was about getting out of your own way, because I always approached my career from, okay, this is my job. This is what I'm supposed to do. You entrust me with it. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to come and rely on you as little as possible, because that's, that's our quid pro quo. That's what I'm getting the paycheck for. However, times have changed, right? So, while I take it from the approach where, unless it's absolutely necessary, I'm not going to go to my higher up. I'm going to handle the situation. I'm learning that that's not the way the world works now. And that there is such thing as creating a codependent situation in the workplace. So, sometimes people don't care that you may note it in their performance review, right? As long as they know that you're going to take care of it for them, they're going to do it. So that's my struggle, because then the flip side to that is to try to take the corrective action, not only for myself, but for the employee, right? You've made it known that because I'm the one that's doing the work, you're going to continue to push me to do your work for you. And now I have to be careful of how I approach that, because now it's, that level of discernment. Are you like this because I've kind of aided and abetted your behavior? Or are you like this because you see the way that the world operates and that this is benefiting you, whether it's short term or long term?
So I love how we started with profession, because I truly believe that, how we operate in a professional realm also translate into how we operate in the personal realm, right? So
and it does.
I truly believe that, we should treat our lives, like our personal lives, as we treat our professional lives, which is why we all evaluate ourselves every quarter, right? And we have these things that we do that happen at work. So if we were to transition to everything that we talked about on a professional level, how we manage that personally, what does that look like, right? Do you think that you don't ask for help because do you see it as a weakness or a strength? Or do you see it as being both from?
I think it's really a little bit of both, but more attributing it to my strength, right? Because again, which is one of the things that we kind of talk about, and I know I bring it up a lot. Hey, I can do this. I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And not realizing that you can't do everything. It may work for a little while, but then eventually it catches up with you. Mm-hmm. So that's my big thing, is knowing is coming to the realization, accepting that I can't do everything. And again, the opposite side of that is that I can't expect people to take something and run with it, especially if I haven't laid out what my expectations are. Mm-hmm. So I made my expectations that I'm going to give you this to handle. Mm-hmm. And here's what I expect to see, or here's what I get back when I want to get back to you. And when we meet again, mm-hmm. we're going to talk about how you accomplished it. Yeah. And you're right. It does. It parlays right into the your personal life, because I can tell you right now, if I'm planning something, I'm just like all hands in. It's me. Nope. I don't need you. Get out the kitchen. I got it. No. I want things decorated and set up in a certain kind of way.
Wow. So how has not asking for help hindered you personally in achieving goals or things that you are attempting to do?
Some of it is out of my control, right? Because we know if you're working in a company and there's a heavy workload that's not imposed on you voluntarily, there's not much that you can do about it, right? It's dictated elsewhere. However, what does end up happening is not completing tasks, not getting to tasks on time. Sometimes, and I'll be honest with you, if I don't want to do something, I won't do it, or I'll delay it. So that's to my detriment. And it's not, again, professionally and personally, because then I'm running around like, oh, wow, feeding into the misnomer that I work best under pressure.
Mm.
I'm too old.
That procrastination piece, right?
Yes, I'm too old to be pressured. So I need to change my ways.
Right. And so all of us have been on this journey, right, of growth, right, moving in different directions, you know, working full time, starting businesses, right? How have you had to adapt to or learn how to, because do you feel like asking for help is a learned behavior?
It depends on the situation. I think as we get older, we've learned over time what kind of works, what doesn't work. So I've learned that I can ask for help after I've read the room. So I've had to read my emotional room. Who's in that space? Who are the people in my front row, in the second tier, in the third tier? Who can I talk to or ask for support? Especially because, to your point, a lot of us, we're all working to some degree and have our own business. Those things take levels. You have to, when you're working a job, you got to be fully committed to what you need to do. You can't take your business into your work space. So now you have to set time aside from that. Yes? Excuse me. Okay. So you have to take your personal time. I'm sorry, excuse me, y'all. You have to take your personal time and this is live, y'all. You see how what happens in real life? Okay. So that's real life. So that just happened.
Right.
That just happened. Okay. So what happens is when you are building your own brand and you're trying to build your business, you have to be careful that you're strategic who you ask to help you, whether you're asking for mentoring or someone to help you structure or set up a part of your business, because that's you. It's not work. It's not your day job, but your day job feeds into what you're able to do and give you some breathing room to grow and develop your business. Now that's different. That's a different type of ask for help. But if you're talking about, let's say you're in a situation where you're maybe stressed out and you just need to talk to someone, you're dealing with a relational thing. It could be with a spouse or a really good friend or something. You just need to decompress and have that conversation with someone you confide in. I've learned over time there's some people that I could definitely do that with, and others, they're not that friend for that. And that's okay. Everybody has their role. That's what I understood. Everybody, you're not going to treat the same way. You're not going to give the same space to hold for you, because you know what they can handle, what they can't. So I've learned not to get disappointed, because I've been through that process of, hey, I can talk to you because we're cool, and then I don't get what I thought I should have gotten from you, or maybe you don't get what you should have got from me. Now we both looking at each other crazy, like, what? That's not you. Oh, my bad. So now I've learned to have more discernment on, okay, who's emotionally ready for this role, and who am I emotionally ready to be that person for, depending on the circumstance, right? So I've learned how to protect myself from disappointment and frustration by knowing who my friends are, who my people are. Everybody can't get the same space, and it's not because there's anything wrong. It's just that you know what they're built for, and that's okay. So yeah.
Yeah. So Netta, I have a question for you, but that's interesting because I just went through that, right? Like I'm talking to my therapist. She was like, well, who's gonna be your accountability partner? And I was like, you. And she was like, okay, come on, like who's gonna, right? And
Like
and
for real, for real.
and it's funny, like I really had to think about it, right? And I said, okay, I'm gonna ask this certain friend, right? And it was funny because when I sent her a voice message, I was like, yo, this is what's going on. I need an accountability partner. Da, da, da. And she responded back. She was like, I love you to life. You've always been there for me. Da, da, da. So of course I would love to be your accountability partner, right? So to the point that you're making, even, and this is one of my closest friends, right? And I still was hesitant about it, right? But the response was, a good one. But that's why I do believe that it's a learned behavior, which is my question for you, Netta, because I really do believe that this, like everything else, right, is a learned behavior that we can now teach ourselves how to be better at asking for help. How would you say we would use our strengths, right, to really begin to nurture and develop the skills that we need in order to be better at asking for help?
I was, the whole time I'm sitting here thinking about, okay, that's that strength, that's that strength. And it's important to understand your strengths as well as attempt to understand the strengths those you're close to, because having an expectation that someone can meet is important, including yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a strength called achiever, and we get stuff done. We don't like sitting around thinking about things. We like action, right? And also, one of my strengths is responsibility, which is loyalty and honesty, not just to those outside of me, but to myself. I had to learn that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in terms of strengths, understanding what those look like, so that when you ask someone, it's actually something they can do. Some people just aren't equipped to meet your expectation. The thing also I was thinking about is clear communication. I wasn't always great with expressing what my need was, what my ask was. So I'm expressing it in a way that makes sense to me because I have all the background to the thoughts that I had before I ask you. But going to the person and not just explaining it in a way they can receive it, and then have the appropriate information to say, yes, I can do this, or no, I can't do that. Instead, most people that I've encountered don't want to disappoint. So rather than just be upfront and tell you it's a no, they sidestep, they don't respond back, they ghost you or what have you. And it's not in a way to hurt you. It's just they don't know how to express it.
So I want to take a step back because I asked you about strengths, like everybody would know what that means. So could you just like briefly like explain what that means to know what your like that strength?
Absolutely. So Gallup has an assessment that we're able to take that categorizes our uniqueness in 34 categories. Okay. And so there is no one like you. So that speaks to scripture. We are fearfully and wonderfully made, right? Mm-hmm. So this is not a personality test that groups you with everybody else. This highlights your strengths and your weaknesses. So the point is to work on your strengths and don't worry about your weaknesses because you accommodate those in your strengths. Mm-hmm. So being aware of what that is helps you move differently, and which is why I can show up differently, and those that I coach can show up differently because we're clear on how we operate, clear on how we should communicate, and clear on how we should connect with our right people. Everybody's not your right person. So being clear on what that looks like is so important because at that point we can build trust. Mm-hmm. So trust is a huge piece of moving forward and asking for help. If I don't trust you, it's not like them going to ask you to help. I got to be desperate at that point. And that's not good for any of us, right? Mm-hmm. So also I've learned through this process of getting older, planning. because we all know we only have a certain chunk of the day that we can be active in and accomplishing things. And I saw, talking about examples, right? Is a learned behavior. I saw candles burn on both ends, so to speak. Not getting enough sleep, driving yourself in the ground. But everybody says, call so-and-so. They don't help you.
Yeah.
Well, what is so-and-so doing? Shortening their life because they're serving everybody else out of an empty cup. So planning is so important so that you don't overextend. I can do this, I can do this, I can do. Well, no, really, you can't, and you probably shouldn't, because we know we can't show up as our best selves if we're in a deficit. Yeah. So I found that planning, clearly expressing what I need, and that's, we got to get clear with it first ourselves, right? Sometimes we don't even know what we need. So be able to express that to someone you trust.
And I think also, right, even recognizing, is this something that I'm even supposed to be doing?
True.
Right? Is this because sometimes you find yourself asking somebody for help, and when they start helping you, be like, why? Did I really need what? Like, why did I even ask? Like, why did I pull them into this? Right? Why is this something I really should be doing? And also the other side of it is taking on things, to the point you're saying, is taking on things that you really shouldn't be taking on. Right? I give you a perfect example: family reunion. Right? I mean, now that, the matriarchs are getting older, they're passing it down to the younger people. And recently, me and my cousin, during the pandemic, we haven't had one. So we're like, oh, one of our older cousins was like talking about a family reunion. I said, well, here's the thing. I'll help, but you need to let her know she leads. Right? And so that also, for me, a part of learning to ask for help has also been being able to say, I can do it, but this is the part of it that I can do. So for me, that also is a way for me, kind of maybe not outrightly asking for help, but in a way saying, I need your help if you want me to do this.
Setting an expectation. Because they clearly had one when they brought it to you. Okay, so this is the piece I can carry.
Yeah. So what tips would you give someone, like either of you, like what tips would you give someone that has helped you with being able to ask for help?
Understanding.
I'm asking for a friend.
Right, asking for a friend. Understanding that
I'm listening for a friend.
Understanding your limitations. We can't be everything to everyone. Mm-hmm. So understand let's say you have an 8-hour window. Mm-hmm. I have 1 hour that I can dedicate to something outside of my other responsibilities. If it doesn't fit in there, I have to say no. So being clear on what you can actually take on.
Okay.
I love what Netta said, because setting the expectation not only helps you, but it helps the person that's supposed to help you. Mm. Because you can help them by giving them the ability to clearly respond, yes, I can, or no, I can't, versus trying to figure it out because they're not clear on what you want. Mm-hmm. So to build on that, I think before we ask for help, we need to ask ourselves a couple of questions about the help we're asking for, so that we're clear on the ask. Because I know there's sometimes I've started a conversation because I'm asking for help in the area, but I wasn't calm enough in my spirit to be clear on how I needed to direct the conversation. So sometimes it was about to go left because I wasn't clear initially, and then when I saw their response to what I'm saying, I'm like, oh, Virginia, you got to dial that back, or you got to reframe it so that you don't lose the person in this conversation, because you really want them to be part of what you're asking for, or you want them to help you. So The other thing I think with setting the expectation with what Netta said, also take time to ask yourself a couple of questions. That may be an extension of what Netta is saying, but when you're engaging with that person or a group, you've already asked yourself some key questions, so you know, okay, this is what I'm asking. So now you can direct that conversation more concisely instead of dragging it out and they're like, well, and then they're like, oh, well, that was it, or oh, dang, that's what you want. But at least you're clear. You have a clearer thing. So just don't go all in. Like, setting your expectation means that you already have an idea of who you can ask for that support from. And then it also helps you not get disappointed sometimes when you hear the no.
Mm-hmm.
Asking for help also means you have to understand that you may not get the help. That doesn't make that person a bad person for not being able to help you at that time.
Right.
Right? So also gives you grace, and we have to also give the people in our space, especially if we know that they're really authentic and they're really, it's a back and forth in the relationship. You can give them grace for that time where they weren't able to assist you or step up or whatever it was you needed, especially if they explain to you in a very loving and respectful way why they can't at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to be disappointed, but you don't have to throw them to the curb because they didn't give you what you needed at the moment. I'm just saying.
And it's interesting that you said that, because that's one of the things I was thinking about, right? I was like, I know at times I probably have failed to ask for help because I don't want to be disappointed. And it's not even being disappointed with the no, it's being disappointed with the person that says yes and then they don't follow through, right?
That's it.
Right.
That's
and then I end up stuck, right? Doing it all alone, or aggravated or annoyed, or just feeling like I'm left out there, right? And and then also, I'm just going to keep it real. Part of my personality is sometimes I'm like, you know what? I know what I want done. I know how I want it done. And, personally, this is how I'm going to do it. Right. Or also, it's a little bit of an area that God has been probably working on me for the larger part of my life, is patience. Right. And so part of it is I want something done, and I want it done in a specific amount of time, and I wanted to get it done by this date. And the person that might be available or willing to help can't do it on my timeline, right? And so rather than me ask, I'm just like, you know what, I'm going to do it myself. Right. And so that's another thing. And I'm just keeping it real, because this topic really is for me. It wasn't my topic, but it's one that I know I struggle with, right? I waver, I go back and forth. I mean, the great thing is that because we have coaches and we are coaches, right, we're able to work through it and push through it. But I always want to be just really transparent to let people know that we don't have it all together.
Right.
We still are works in progress.
Amen. From the Pookie corner.
But I know that is a big one.
One of the other one of the other things that I also see is that can add to that is fear of failure, or fear of letting somebody down. Because when I look at it, say, getting back to the professional setting, it's like, okay, someone somewhere needs something done, right? Especially if it's a customer. And it's like, if I don't take care of it and take care of it in my time and what I perceive as my time, then I'm going to disappoint a customer. Or a boss, or a peer, or someone in the next department that I'm looking to collaborate with, or whatever it may be. So I think it was one of our earlier conversations is that the fear also comes in there too. So I can take it, push other things aside, even though it wasn't part of my agenda for that day. Then that kind of lessens my fear. However, now it's created a whole sort of other things behind that. because again, there was something else that I should have done that either may have had more importance or an equal value of importance that now has been pushed aside. Failed to ask for help because I had an expectation or perception that it needed to be done right then and there, and it needed to be done by me.
Yeah. And it's also holding people to the standards that you have, right? Like I have a certain way that I like things that, like I will say professionally, right? I believe in getting back to people within 24 to 48 hours, whether I have an answer for them or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing in my personal life. If I tell you I'm going to do something, if I'm not able to do it, I'm going to get back to you, right?
Right.
So it is also learning to say, okay, everybody, like I will tell you, like this mentor, she doesn't know how much she helped me because it sticks in my head when I get stuck. I'm like, everybody's not going to do things like you. Everybody's not like you. Everybody's not at that same standard. Everybody works differently, right? It doesn't mean that it's wrong. But to the point that you make, I think fear, we know, shows up in every aspect, right, of our life. It's not until we get to that, my favorite book, Failing Forward, right? That's the thing that helps me move past the fear, right? I always think about John Maxwell and saying, part of life is that failure, that whatever, but it is a real thing. In the moment, you're not thinking about that. In a moment, you're like, I don't want to let this person down, or I don't want to drop the ball, right? And that's where that fear comes in. But I really do truly think that, this asking for help thing, I feel like is a ongoing, evolving thing.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I was just thinking from a different perspective as a mother. There are certain things our children don't learn unless we allow them to do something. And I learned that the hard way because I, just jump in and do things without even thinking about it. I've done it for so long. It's just part of my routine. And one of our children just sat me down and said, "Can I talk to you for a minute? I feel like I'm behind in just basic life skills because I haven't learned how to do certain things because you always just do it and not teach me while you're doing it."
Wow.
And so I think about that across all spectrums, professionally into our personal relationships. People are watching us, whether we choose to believe it or not, because we've watched others as well. And some of the things we watched became habits that weren't necessarily the best for us. So I think of it in that way when I'm so busy doing and not teaching. So why am I going to learn all the lessons I've learned through life without sharing them? And so asking for help isn't necessarily a negative thing. It could be seen as a teaching moment.
Have you tried practicing asking for help?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially in becoming a business owner, an entrepreneur. There's so much to know. There's so many things that I have no clue of. And there are people who do these things very well. Why would I spend time trying to figure it out when I can just ask?
Yeah. And why I ask that is because I feel like just in general, right, when we're talking about asking for help, but even in other areas, right, some things it's practice. Right. It takes you being intentional about I'm going to learn how to ask for help. Right. Like, I remember years ago, I had to go for I think it was like a colonoscopy or something. Right. It was like my first one, I think, when I first turned whatever age. And, here I am saying to the doctor, I was like, well, I could. She's like, who's going to pick you up? I'm like, I can take an Uber.
No, you cannot drive yourself.
Like, no, you cannot. I was like, why not? Right. And she was like, because we need to, and it was crazy, right? Because then I had to like really think about who am I gonna ask, right? And I don't even know why, because there were so many people, like my cousin, whatever, but it's just even something as simple as that, right? Like feeling like I can't ask this person to do this because maybe I'm inconveniencing them, or maybe I'm, gonna ask them to do something that they're not able to do. But it's so crazy that came to mind, because I was like, well, no, I could just take, and the nurse was like, and another time, so I was working, my career has been in healthcare, right? For the majority for most of my life. And I remember I worked for this hospital and I wasn't feeling well, right? So I drove myself to the emergency room. And when I got there, it was the hospital that I worked at, right? I was the HR person. The nurses were like, how did you get here? I was like, I drove. They were like so upset with me, right? But I didn't even think about calling anybody to ask me. They were like, are you crazy like you? And I was like, well, I'm only like 15 minutes away. They were like, right. But now that I think about it, right? How crazy was that? Instead of me just picking up the phone and asking a friend who lived like 10 minutes away from me or whatever to just come and get me, right? I drove myself to, like, listen to that. I drove myself to the emergency room.
Yeah, we put ourselves in other people's schedules, which we shouldn't do. We answer for them.
Exactly.
Right? We shouldn't do that. Just like when you talk about whether or not someone can afford your product. Mm-hmm. You're not in their bank account. You don't get to do that. Give them the option to say yes or no.
But it's so crazy, because now that I say that, it really, like, that's the message that I want everybody to hear, right? Like, and you said it best, right? Don't answer for somebody else. Like, if I had just picked up I literally in my head convinced myself that me calling somebody to drive me to the emergency room was going to be an inconvenience. So you know what? I'm just going to hop in this car and I'm going to drive myself to the emergency room, right? Like the 15-minute ride probably took 30 minutes because I was driving so slow, right? But the reality is I didn't even think to call an Uber or call a cab. I got in a car and drove myself.
In the car.
So do we think that there, and it may or not be, but do we think there's a bit of a worth portion or piece to that? Do we feel like we are worthy of asking for help?
I'm just gonna jump in real quick before I get shut down.
I don't.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. That's a really great question, and I think for me, sometimes I do think about the worth. Like, while I value people, I'm wondering, I'll say stuff in my head like, oh, I don't want to inconvenience them because what they're doing is so important, and I don't want to make their time about me. I'm still learning. I've overcome a couple of really good hurdles, but I'm still overcoming in that space. That if the same way I can value someone else and I can stop at a dime if they need me, I know that person that loves me the way I love them can do the same for me.
Right.
And so I have to say that to myself, and I also have to say, I know whose I am, and I know if God loves me, and He does, He's put people around me that love me too.
Yes.
And that they will be there for me if I just ask. So I've had to check that with myself, have that positive self-talk, to say you can pick up the phone and call somebody. They will be there. If they have the time, they will be there. And I found that to be true. The more I didn't speak for them and neutralize it before I even asked, I'm learning how to get past that. So I think that's really good.
But the other side of it is not even if they have the time, like the person that really is there for you is going to make the time.
Yep.
Right.
And sometimes
Yes.
we don't even allow people we don't even give people the opportunity to make time for us or to make room for us. And how much is that tied to what we think we're worthy of or what we think we're deserving of, right? Although we're pouring out, how often do we not allow people to pour back into us?
Right.
Yeah. And so I really like something that.
But not only that, do we?
Go ahead, Sheila.
Do we also expect people to do things for us because, like, we, for some reason, whatever that reason may be, that we think that they owe it to us? Like, I've been there for you countless times, and now it's your turn. So are those the people that we tend to for help because we feel that they're obligated to us for some reason?
Yeah, I think for me it's the opposite. I think that I don't I do and don't really expect anybody to do anything for me, which is why for me I know it really has been a learned behavior. Like I really have had to learn to stop and ask for help, right? To say, can you do this for me? Can you like, even I'm gonna give you a perfect example. You guys know I just recently went to New York, and you know, my cousin picked me up when I got there, whatever. And so now some people who probably didn't know I was in New York are not gonna be happy, but whatever. But anyway, right? When it was time, my flight back was an early flight. It was at 6 a.m. And I was like, okay, I gotta be at the airport at 4. And my god sister kept saying, why don't you call one of our friends? She was like, why don't you ask him to take you to the airport? And I was like, no, it's too early. And then she said, why don't you ask? I'm like, no, it's too early, right? Then her daughter, my niece was like, why don't you ask my god, right? And I'm like, no. And so I took an Uber, right? And now that we're having this conversation, I'm like, I didn't even give the person a chance to say, yes, it's too early, or no, or whatever. I did what Regina said is I made the decision for them because I didn't even bother to ask. But part of that, and the crazy, and why I say that is because I would get up and take somebody. Like I would expect the person to ask me to do it. And that's why I say it is still a learned behavior. It's something that I have to practice because I am the person that is used to doing. And so I have to sometimes sit back and be like, it's okay to ask somebody to come pick you up. It's okay to ask somebody to do X, Y, Z. Right?
And it's okay for them to say no. Exactly.
Because that's all that would have happened. That would have been a no. Right? Or it would have been a yes. But I didn't even give them a chance to say yes or no because I made it in my mind it was too early.
Yep.
So this is really a good conversation because it's really kind of making me recall things that I still need to work on. Right? Like, do any of you still feel like there are certain things that you need to work on when it comes to asking for help?
Absolutely.
I would say yes for $5, Bob. I'm still working on some things.
Why are you whispering? But I think this is a real conversation because it really is. It really is like that difficulty in just owning the fact that it's okay to ask for help.
Yes. And there are people like us who want to be the friend they wish they had. They want to show up, but we have to give them the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah, that's true.
That's so true. There are
yeah, like you said, I mean, I think it's easier for us to give grace to others than to give grace to ourselves.
Agreed. Yes.
And
Absolutely.
and it's crazy because I read something that said asking for help often makes people feel uneasy because it requires surrender and control to someone else,
Yep. There's some vulnerability involved.
right? That vulnerability piece, right? Like that will make you feel like you got to go it alone, or you decide to go it alone.
Absolutely.
This has been eye opening.
I agree. This is good. Awareness is where it begins, right? We can talk about and see the areas where we can make some improvements. But for me, again, the serving and giving, a lot of us are like that as business owners. It's okay to receive.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's also important, right? Because especially at this point where we're trying to reach our goals, right? Achieve. We all have certain things we're trying to achieve, and I think everybody, people listening to this, people who are listening to this later, right? Everyone, at least I would hope, everybody in life has something that they're working towards, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes you not asking for help, it slows down your efforts to reaching your goals, right? When you ask for help, you're able to reach your goals faster. It decreases your stress and anxiety. I can't tell you how many times I've probably been just like, frustrated or overwhelmed, and I put myself in that situation because, like you said, Netta, right? There's a wealth of people that are out here doing what we're trying to do, right? But we don't want to ask. And of course, you can't ask everybody, but
Right.
there are some people that you can ask and they won't have a problem helping, right? So, I would just say, and this will probably be my final word, is the importance of asking for help is because it does release you from that stress and anxiety and that overwhelm that you sometimes create for yourself because you did not ask for help, right? And so I would say, if I had to say anything to someone listening now or later, is just think about your reason why you're not asking for help, and then really come up for the reason why you should ask for help, right? So I think you have to ask those two questions, right? Because that's what I do now, right? Like, why aren't you going to ask this person for help, right? What's behind that? Because a lot of times it's something that's driving us, right? We're afraid they're going to say no. We don't want to be disappointed. We feel like we already know the answer, right? So ask yourself the why, and then ask yourself if the story you're telling yourself is true.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's not, then ask yourself why you should not ask them for help.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to throw this caveat out there. I guess we're taught from since we can remember to be independent, right? We're taught how to walk on our own, run, take our careers, take our responsibilities seriously. But what we fail to miss in all of those things is that the best form of relationship and independence is interdependence. And that it's totally okay and you're not less than because for a moment or for a time you may need someone's help, right? That doesn't diminish your ability to do things or handle stuff or be the person that you are because you need someone for something. It doesn't take away from whatever you bring to the table already. So don't minimize yourself or feel like by asking for help you're less than in that moment. Not at all. The highest form of us being able to move forward is to be able to help each other. Right? So we need to remember that yes, our strength individually, we could probably be very awesome, but together and when we're helping each other through things, we're even stronger. So don't be afraid or think you're less than because you need to reach out and ask for support.
And I
We're
think
not meant to be alone.
yeah, and you have to ask where it comes from too, right? Because I'm even thinking as you talk, right? I'm the youngest, right? But I'm also the youngest of people who are old, 7 years older than me, 10 years older than me, 11 years older than me, right? So a part of me just learned how to be by myself, right? Because my siblings were so much older than me, right? And so that also may have contributed to it too. Because although I had cousins and stuff who were close in age, but my siblings for the most part are 7 years, 9 years, 10 years, 11 years older than me. Right. So I've learned how to fun and I know a part of my because I'm a kind of introvert extrovert. I know that ability for me to just be by myself and do things by myself come from that point of I spent time by myself because I had older siblings who were like, little girl, go. Right. So that's another thing also to kind of think about where it comes from as well.
So my closing words would be to know that the lessons you've learned in life are not to be kept. And the only way to really share those is to give someone else an opportunity to glean from you. And sometimes that's through allowing them to help you.
Mm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And my closing words are, Sheila, get out of your own way. You are your stumbling block. People serve a purpose, whether it's professionally or personally. They are serving a purpose in your life, in your time, and in that season. So use them for reasons because you're in their life for a particular reason or season. So get out of your own way.
Note to self. I love it.
So I'm going to say,
Note to self.
Sheila's going to say, Netta, Theo, Gina, get out of your own way. Right. Because that message was for all of us and all of you listening. Get out of your own way. And so we have reached the 9 o'clock hour, a little bit over. So again, another, to me, great episode. It went by quicker than I thought it would. And as always, we start off saying, what are we going to talk about? And we have so much to talk about. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in to the Woman to Woman show on the New You Nation Network. We are here on Mondays evenings at 8 p.m. And we look forward to you joining us again next week. And I'm just going to close. We're going to close as we normally close, which we're going to say truth plus transparency
equals healing.
All right. Have a great night, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.